Hey, this is the Campfire Passport podcast, and today we're going to go over some stories about how us and our friends got into car camping, into overlanding. And I think that is a fun concept to explore. We're going to see how far we can take it with a couple of these guys. We're going to go over some news. We're going to talk about some big stupid trucks, and we're going to talk about Mike's big stupid truck at some point, probably. We might go over some other news. We might not. We might make some corrections. We might not. There might be some bold claims. You never know. We're going to try to keep it fresh and keep it moving. On that note, Colin, you got anything for me?
I do actually. So, as you will likely hear as well, we're going to be talking a little bit about Mcgrew Trail again because that's the next big thing that we're going to do, and it seems to have some excitement boiling around it. So, it's a permitted trail, and I have a permit for a certain amount of vehicles, and I made sure to get us a couple extra spots so that we could perhaps extend an invite to outsiders of our group. And I wanted to extend the invite to any of the listeners or followers wherever we have. So if you are interested in doing a cool little off-roading trail that we're going to be camping on, and you feel like you kind of might vibe with our just weird and eccentric group, then feel free to reach out to us, DM us on the socials, or email Mike, because he'll give you his email address multiple times in every podcast that he's on. And then we'll go through a process and see if we can't select anybody to come along with us. So
And we might select
that about
all of
sums
you.
it up for me. Let's get into it. There could be that, yeah.
It's the story of my life.
Just not paying attention or being blackout drunk?
Yeah. A little bit of both.
Okay. It's a story, so there's that. I had a correction to start with because we talked about, I think it was on the last one, right? It was on 3003. We talked about a Volkswagen show that no one cares about other than us. And we said it was Alpine Vag Fair, and that was... Oh, no, sorry. We said it was Southern Worthersea. It was not. It was Alpine Volksfair, I think is actually what it's called, not Vag Fair like I wrote. But either way, cool event that happens in
I think that was on 2.
Georgia. And what?
That was on number 2, because I was there.
Oh, okay.
I called it the Worcestershire.
Yes, it was a previous
Mike
episode.
is correct.
This is true.
That's the truth. No,
Let me just correct your correction.
Ah, damn. We could have saved that for the next one, or 2 down the road we could have corrected from this one. I think a correction is probably necessary on every podcast we do somewhere, but, that one was kind of the big one.
Should we designate somebody as our fact checker at the end of every episode?
Yeah.
Who's the most analytical person?
Yeah. I don't know.
It should be the opposite.
Yeah,
It should
I'm
be the
not
worst.
adding more to my plate.
I mean, you probably are the most analytical one, so there is that. And you're listening to it the most, so you really dig in. And you
Analytical or critical?
both. Especially critical.
Yeah.
Exceptionally critical, you could say.
Why not both?
Some would say.
Why not both? Some would say. The legend has it that you're awfully critical. I thought we would go over just interesting news stuff first because that sounds like a fun way to get into it. The first thing that I thought was interesting that I've seen recently, and this is a little bit before our podcast that happened last time. There's a Silverado HD ZR2 Bison, and I think this is where Mike boldly proclaims that it comes factory with 37s, but I don't think so.
I have no idea about that. I know the Colorado. Yeah.
Yes. Yeah, the big truck looks cool. I mean, it looks like a Tremor, competitor. It's probably better because it's got the Multimatic dampers, and I don't know what else. I think it's just got a bunch of really cool AEV stuff, skid plates and all that kind of stuff. I think it's interesting though, because like there's this crazy market for like overland vehicles right from the factory, and it's interesting to watch it trickle up. So like Defender, like we talked about, or all those kinds of things. And I think it's fun to talk about from like a news standpoint, even though the four of us are not running out to buy that truck because it's outrageously expensive and completely impractical for anything that we do. But it's interesting to me that it exists, and it's interesting that it isn't like an exercise for the manufacturers.
Well, and I think that the benefit we get is it trickled up and then it's going to trickle back down. So like on factory race teams and all that other stuff, it goes up, it gets expensive, it gets ridiculous, and then they figure out a way to market it on the lower trim models. You can see Ford with the Raptor turned into the Ranger Raptor, they've got like a Maverick Tremor or something like that. Like it just kind of spreads, and I think that that's a cool spot because the bros that can afford that truck are going to be paying $90,000 for it, and that's going to give enough spending money to do that for the next one.
Yeah, and I think, I mean, you can already see some of the things that trickle down when we look at like the hydro bump stop on the Tacoma. That's pretty cool, and that's something that, that's tech that 2 years ago wasn't anything that anybody would think somebody would put on a factory rig. So that's pretty neat. And it's still out of the reach of a lot of just normal enthusiasts, for better or worse. But so I think that's good. I also think it's nice because it puts more things like that out in the used market. So like I've been looking at, replacements for my vehicle 10 years down the road forever because I'm a car nerd and I look at car things all the time like the rest of us. And one of those things I look at are like current power wagons. Like I think that's a really cool rig that you can put some sort of cool camp gear on. I think with 40s and a lot of driving skill and fun, or I don't give a shit moments, you could have a lot of fun wheeling one too. It's big, but it's not that big. I mean, it's a full-size rig, but as long as you're not on the tightest trail in the world, it'd probably be fine. And as long as you're not putting a flatbed and a
I mean, you could take a full-size rig a lot of places.
Yeah, I think width is going to be the main thing that is the killer there. Like if you're solely in areas that are, wide open desert type stuff, or like Moab, things like that type of area, I can see getting away with things that are that wide. But if you're heavily forested trails or even some forest roads in heavily forested areas, I do not envy anyone with a full size trying to get through. I mean, we saw just like, how about our local Edison and just a Tacoma putting a dent in its door because it couldn't get through the top portion of Edison, right, Jesse?
Yeah. Only, 2 weeks into owning the truck and throw a dent in the door. It's like, I could put my rock slider on this tree and move my rear end. It's like, no, you can't. It's just going to dent your door.
What about Bar Road with, was it Ryan's Tahoe that he took down on your bachelor party trip?
That was an approach angle issue more than anything.
Yeah, that
Well, didn't you get
that wasn't
squeezed
bar
between
road.
two trees and we had to like just rub both sides? Yeah.
Barlow Trail.
I think
that's
that
right.
Yeah, that
full
was the
size
Barlow road.
rigs are full size
Barlow.
rigs are yes, Barlow. And full size rigs can do whatever you want them to do. It's just how much are you willing to dent up your rig? And how much do you care about opening your door every time and successfully shutting it every time?
Yeah. Well, I think that becomes like it's kind of like Mike's rigs argument, right? It becomes the camp vehicle that can do a lot of trails. Like that's what you want, as opposed to the rig that you take on the Rubicon that you can also camp out of. And I
Mhm.
see benefit, I see pro and con on each end of that, and I think I'm a little bit towards the you can wheel it and camp out of it scenario these days, which I'm happy to do because I want to beat the crap out of it and make it out, which is nice. But sometimes I see like, man, this is a giant truck. Like this seems like it'd be really cool to have so much more space, and I have plenty of space. I wouldn't complain about that. I'm not camping out of a Jeep or something, but more is more, and there is that. You're not camping out of a
We
Jeep
can
either, for the record.
More is more.
We can circle back on this topic over the next 2 years and see how Raw Dog's doing.
Hmm.
Ask me what it's like to take a true full size rig up and down those trails. And you know, you guys see the truck. It's nothing pretty on the outside, so it's not like I'm gonna be too worried if it gets dented. But if I start not being able to open my door, or especially if Anna's not going to be able to open her door, I'm going to hear a lot of negative comments about the full size truck.
Well, having had one for a while now, my wife sure likes riding in it. She likes the fact that she can cook inside. She likes the fact that we've got a place to sit. She likes that she can change inside while standing up. Imagine that, you guys. You can change clothes without rolling around in a tent. And that makes me
Right,
happy that she's
but
happy.
You
Now,
don't go to
when
Klein.
I personally can't.
We're talking about actually
No,
wheeling
not in that.
and camping. Yeah, that's what I'm saying though. Is we're
No.
we're talking a wheeling rig that we're camping out of. That's more. That's the concept
Right.
here.
Well, he's asking about full size. No, I understand that. And I have my own Jeep, this one or the Cherokee, whichever one sells first, that I'll camp out of when it's just me because I have a tent cot and a cooler. I'll be fine. But I like to make sure that my wife is happy.
Oh,
Full size life.
how sweet. Well,
I think
embarrassed
you're
her
still
enough
missing the
last
concept
time,
because
so I
Jesse
gotta
was
do
talking
something
about
back this
his
time.
Suburban.
No, I understand that.
Yeah. We'll see. We'll see what happens. I am going to miss the compact agility of a shorter wheelbase. The third gen Tacoma is not a short wheelbase, but it's shorter than a square body Suburban. But I am not, I am going to absolutely love being able to do like full on movements in my truck and not touch a single person.
that's the American dream, right?
Yes. I want my personal space.
That's right.
In my
that's a
truck.
Who
right.
knew
God damn it.
1976 Chevy already had this personal bubble space in 2020 figured out?
5 feet of separation.
Uh, um,
But
that's great. The other thing that I had
I will say
noticed-
I'm not going to take it down Edison.
oh come on,
Well,
you could
not
make
the not the
it.
upper,
There's definitely been
not the upper half.
Yes, not the
The
upper.
first-
Not the upper.
The
I'll
first
take the
half
first
you'd be
half
fine. We
to
can
the
we can
cab.
do that.
There's
Yeah.
only like one spot that is that tight. Without any.
That's true. And I
like,
got a
only-
chainsaw.
Yeah. Well, that tree I think probably no, but that one tree's been there for a long, long time, and I think it'd be real sad to knock it down just because you want to take your stupid Suburban through there.
I know. That's the joke.
I get it. Yeah, I think you could make it past it still though. Is it how much? I mean, think about all the rigs that go through there on full width axles, which are your axles, and you have a little more body. I don't know. I think it'd be fine.
Mm-hmm.
I touched
No,
my
Sean,
roof on
you
that
haven't
spot.
done? Have you gone to the second shelter? Because you weren't with us when we went to the second shelter that time, were you?
I didn't
The
second
Tacoma
shelter.
couldn't even make it through that one.
Yeah.
Really, that's the
So
second.
from the first shelter, you come down the hill a little bit, and then there's the out, or you can go up to the next shelter, and it's not difficult trail at all. It's just crazy narrow, and then crazy, like, super tight switchbacks through these narrow trees. Like when I had the Montero, I had to fold mirrors in to get the Montero through. Like that's how wide it was. Like it's not
Okay.
that second portion is not for the full size rig at all.
Well,
So,
sounds
for
like
the
it's-
folks at home, what we're talking about is a mountain, and they have these snow shelters up there so that you can go up there if you're in the middle of winter, you don't die up on this mountain. But we wheel it in the summertime in case you don't know what Edison is. That's the basics.
It's a butte, not a
that's a
mountain.
broad scope.
Yeah,
Yeah, it's on the side of a
If
mountain.
you're from Michigan, it's a mountain.
people on the East Coast think it's a mountain, and I'm really trying to
Yeah.
pick up those.
Ohio.
Yeah.
It's
Hey, we have lakes. No, you've got ponds. That's cute. We have mountains. No, you've got buttes. Those are cute too.
it's a decent little trail. But if the second half is not as good as the first half, why would you do it anyways? What's the? I don't know why I've been.
We had never gone up it, so we were just like, oh, well, let's see where we go, and then turns
When
out
Mike
not
and I
great.
did the 80s on Edison run, going out the other end. So I'd only ever gone to the shelter and come back. I've never gone loop there. And so going out, I was impressed at the terrain going out. Like it was much gnarlier than I thought. They're big drop-offs. And that's where I bent my drag link pretty hard. So it wasn't like, it's not super gnarly, but it was enough, especially in the snow, because it was, whatever, a couple feet of snow. So that was good.
That was a good time.
I think the true test of the full size, as far as getting the toes wet with the full size Suburban, is going to be Mcgrew. And seeing how it does on Mcgrew. If I don't turn into a piece of toast because there's no AC and I'm sitting in a unconditioned steel cage.
Why don't you put
In
air
July.
conditioning in that thing? They've got to make like 100
Why isn't there?
different kits. Yeah, why don't you have a modern engine that easily accepts an air conditioning
Oh, man.
compressor and a truck that spanned like 25 years.
Oh yeah, I've got it sitting right over there. It's just
Oh.
the truck did not come with it factory, so there's a lot of little fun modifications that I have to do, and fixing the hole that is approximately 16 inches around, that is the floor pan that looks down onto a freeway as I drive, is a little more priority.
Okay, that's fair. That's fair.
Yeah, it's on the list. It's just
On the list. Makes sense.
Well, I'm excited, Jesse. Oh, I'm excited that you're coming to Mcgrew.
I am too.
All the listeners are excited too.
Yes, they're like, oh man, Jesse's going. I'm going to listen to the
my
podcast. This is
God.
going to be great.
Yeah.
I guarantee you that's not what they're thinking.
Well, maybe, but you're probably right.
Well, I was wondering, hey Colin, does the Wagoneer have air conditioning?
Does not.
Oh man.
Clever question, Mike. I can't believe that no one else thought of that first.
No, I came up with it on my
Oh.
own.
I was thinking about it. I was thinking about offering Jesse a race to see who could get their AC done first.
We have a small advantage there.
The LO swap isn't even done yet.
Yeah.
Colin, are you going to do air conditioning? Is that a thing?
Yeah. I'm gonna. I know that I'm gonna need to, so I'm just going to, and I am lucky enough to have a slight advantage in that making it happen department. So I'll have to
I think that's
try and do that. I think that was one of my goals for Mcgrew was to have AC. So we'll see.
yeah. I think that's a nice thing to have as an adult. No AC is totally fine. My last Mark II, no AC, cruise around, good days, bad days, it's fine. But like having it, nice. Good thing to have, especially if you're driving it all the time. And I'm totally comfortable saying that I want it.
Yeah, I mean,
I don't think
having
there's
the wing windows is pretty great. So like that's great, but when you're on a trail, you're not going fast enough to produce enough wind speed through a wing window to feel like you might be cooling down.
Yeah, that is true.
Yeah.
Go ahead.
Oh, I remember that from Jesse's bachelor party again. I was driving that Cherokee that didn't have air conditioning, and it was me and Subi when we stopped off in Warm Springs, just walked out into the river and just soaked both of us, and then we just got back in the Jeep and we were dry by the time we got out of the reservation. It was just like, I'm just going to wet my whole body and my whole seat and hope that it works out. And it did not work out.
It's a hot weekend. What time of year was that, Jesse?
That was.
July.
Okay, that makes sense. Surprisingly, I don't
think it was
smoky.
also on my birthday.
Oh,
yeah.
Well, not important.
No, because I don't care enough about my birthday. So.
Got it. Yeah. Okay, well, I think that's enough to push us into the main topic. I think that we have some stuff to talk about, which is pretty cool. We've been talking about trying to bring our listening base up to speed a little bit on who we are and what we do. And for everybody that's listening that isn't close to us, one of the things that we're trying to do is kind of get this entire group of people that are friends and sometimes family or the blurred line in between, and who they are, what they do, and why we're camping together, essentially, is the easiest way to put it, I think. But sometimes it's more than that, more car focused, more off-road focused, whatever it is. But the thing we wanted to do that I think is really cool is that we want to have everybody tell their story. So I always kind of joke around about not using the word overland, but it's their overland story, right? It's like how they get into it, what they started with, where they're at now, that kind of stuff. And I don't think we have to do like a detailed deep dive and everything, but I think a cool little talk about who they are and what they're doing with camping is fun, and I think it's interesting. And I think Jesse and Mike are both really good additions to that, and everybody is really, but these two are good at telling a story, and I think that's a nice little thing. So I think that I'm going to start by asking Jesse, because he's got his hand in a motion. I can't tell what it is. It must have been a thumbs up, though.
No, I was pointing at Mike.
Oh, yeah. Jesse, I'm going to give backstory at least on Jesse and maybe on everybody, but Jesse, my earliest memory of is car club time. We all used to be a little bit more into cars, and oh my God, I didn't realize Mike had High Life in that wine glass this entire time. That should have been a champagne flute, by the way. You picked the wrong glass.
Nobody else knew.
That's true. That's shocking. Anyways, Jesse we met Jesse through a car club that is silly, and we won't have to go into really, really far. But we were all car people for the most part at that point, or car people with some sort of off-road background or outdoorsy stuff in our lives, whatever piece of that puzzle it is. But cars are kind of the thing. And when I say cars, I do mean cars in this scenario. But like overall, I think cars for all of us mean vehicles, whether it's two-wheeled, four-wheeled, whatever. But Jesse is an outrageous person, as is Mike, which is kind of fun to have them together. Even though they may not seem like it watching a podcast, they're ridiculous people in the best ways. So With that rant
Thanks.
being said, Jesse, why don't you tell us a little bit about your story? What you got going on?
So, I mean, I think it really deserves a start at the beginning. And the beginning of my journey was really when my dad got me my first pickup, and it was the fourth gen Hilux that I still have today. I bought it for $700 from a farmer in LeGrand. It's actually a town outside of LeGrand, but doesn't matter. Motor in pieces in the back, full of rats, seat eaten out, oxidized gray. Brought it home on a trailer, and I was like, "Oh man, that's gonna be my truck, Dad?" He's like, "Yeah." He handed me a Chilton's manual and said, "We better get started." And that was at 16. So I mean, I learned a motor rebuild from nothing. So he had never done a 22 RE before, and neither had I. So, we're both learning together how to build this motor. So I learned how to build a motor from pieces to a motor instead of breaking down from the start and then rebuilding. So that was really informative. Um, did a transmission swap because it was automatic, put a manual in it, new seat, new interior, painted it, and we did it all ourselves. So it was kind of a budget build, but that's really where my off-road journey started because it was four-wheel drive. And I learned, hey, this is fun. Let's throw a little bit of lift on here in 33s and see how weird I can get out west of Bend. And um, on my 18th or 18, I was 18, the day after I graduated high school, I rolled it. And that's when the truck got really weird, turned it into basically a crawler. And that's where it's at, where it is now. So my journey really started in wheeling. And then I flipped a bunch of other trucks and whatnot, and then I ended up
Do you
in
mean
the
flipped like rolled over, or do you mean flipped like?
no, sorry.
Oh, okay.
That is in your
Just
history.
another flipping all kinds of cars. Just
I
boom,
have
boom, every car.
I have rolled one, yes.
Okay.
But I started flipping for some money, so I did
Other people's cars?
GMT 400. No. um, I
You
have
gymnast.
I have I have wrecked another person's car while not driving. We'll get into that story another day.
Okay. That sounds like an after hours podcast scenario.
That, yeah. Um, but after, flipping for cash, uh, I ended up getting that Mark III Golf and doing that horrible paint job. Well, a great paint job, just never finished. And that's how I met you guys because Casey Burgum was in the car club and he's like, "Oh, hey, you got that cool little car now, and you should join this club." So I joined it, and that's when I met you guys. And I brought my ridiculous antics, like stealing your son's Hot Wheels to do the low car limbo.
Yes, the Power Wheels.
But after that car,
Power wheel, yeah.
yeah. But after that car, I had one more car, and then I just basically got back into wheeling after that. Because after the Mark III, I sold that. I got the E30, sold that, and then got into the Tacoma. And that's when I threw a tent on top of the Tacoma and really took the wheeling to a camp spot to the next level and really did more of the, all right, well, let's, instead of wheeling to a camp spot and camping there for 2 days, let's wheel to a camp spot, then pack up, then wheel to another camp spot. And that's, you guys really started that for me, to be honest. Because more for me, my background was a lot of just let's go wheeling hard, and then we'll
Yeah.
camp and get drunk for 2 days, and then wheel our hungover asses out.
I think you provide
So I mean,
excellent level of like that balance, right? Like we had that conversation, you and I, on what trip was that? Oh, that was for Tyson's like bachelor party trip that we did. You and I were putting around a couple times on the radio, just talking about how everybody's waiting in line and we're driving through the ridiculous ditch or going over the whatever to like entertain ourselves. So it's fun to have that like extra little aspect of screw it, let's just go wheeling, aligned with
It's
let's go on a camp trip.
yeah. It's the sweet home in you and the hillbilly in me.
You didn't need to
That
bring that up.
that
That didn't have to come out all the way. Like, it just really, we can just gloss right
uh,
on over that one.
it is a little bit of the I'll just call it's a little bit of the backwoods hillbilly, like where it's just like, yeah, I'm here to have fun.
Yeah.
I'm gonna go dork around over here.
I
So
mean, as
yes, I
much as
do bring that. Sorry, continue.
oh, I was gonna say, as much as the redneck thing is hateable at its best sometimes, God, it can be a lot of fun, and I get it, unfortunately.
I do too. I'm super excited about V8 power. Super excited about a square body Chevy, and I'm really excited to bring my hillbilly to the campsite a little bit harder in the
Oh,
coming years.
you're hillbillying hard with that square body in a good way. In a good
Oh
way.
man,
Did you
with the
get those
chain on the
40s, by the
front?
way?
No, that guy totally
Oh,
ghosted
that's
me.
yeah.
He didn't even
Man,
respond. I really wanted those.
Oh,
Oh,
that would have been the best snow wheeling scenario.
oh yeah. Well, I got a little snow wheeling
Well,
redemption to do after last year, but we won't go there. Or
oh
sorry, last
God.
time.
Well,
well, before we get too far from
well,
it,
I
I
mean, it
want
was
to point
last
out.
year.
It was
Well,
last.
yeah, it wasn't that long ago, was it?
No, but I did
So
fail
back
epically.
back to Jesse's hillbilliness. He's also the person that I would want with me if shit got weird on a trail. If I lost a wheel, or if like the back end of my entire vehicle fell off, Jesse could figure out, all right, well, if we use this ratchet strap over here, and then we put a 2x4 there, and then for some reason we have to chop this tree down, well, that doesn't help, but we're going to do it anyway. Like, we would figure out a way to get it off the trail. And so I think that's an important Jesse trait that people need to understand, because that's the just get it done dude over there.
Thank you, Mike.
Yeah.
It is the redneck rigging. That is what I
Yeah.
do.
Yes.
Like I'm the epitome of the guy down the street that his name's Cecil. I can fix your refrigerator, I can fix your car, and I can fix your cat. Take all your shit to me.
None of it well, but all of it done.
Yeah, it might not last forever, but shoe dang, it'll get it done.
That is true.
I appreciate the
Um,
compliment, Mike. Thank you.
aw, again. This is aw number 2, by the way, from Mike. So that is impressive. Uh, Mike is getting up, but before he sits down with his wine glass of beer, I think that I'm gonna I'm gonna give my 2-second lead up into Mike. Same sort of story, except for Mike and I have a really interesting friendship start story, because we were basically pen pals for like 6 months, because he was a customer of mine who was stationed in Afghanistan at the time. So if anybody wants to email him at secretsrsvp@gmail.com, secret, not no s, secretrsvp@gmail.com. That is
One
where I
secret.
learned of Mike, and I thought that he was a spammer for a little bit. Even though he was vouched by a personal friend, I thought, this guy's probably going to take my money somehow, but I don't know how yet.
I
so I'm
sent
gonna
you
sit
my
out
credit card
because he's
number.
really nice. Yeah. Anyway, that's how I know Mike. And the first day I ever met Mike in person, this is my favorite thing, and I will tell this story 100 times in the future. We went out to lunch, and it was just one of those things where I had known him for about 7 minutes at the time, and he said, "Hey, you want to get lunch together?" I thought, yeah, fuck it. Sure. Why not? So here we are. The weirder part of that is that we know a lot of the same people, and we're actually super tied in. I'm going to marry what is practically his sister next year, so it's not like we're that close. in other ways, but that was the only way I knew him at that point, was just that weird ass email address. But anyways, Mike, Mike always seems to have been into off-road stuff like Jesse. Like that was his start. We met through cars because cars are part of trucks, and that's just the way it was. But he came with just like Jesse, I think a little bit more off-roading background than some of us, where he was like a little bit, I don't want to say more knowledgeable, but more knowledgeable or more experienced in some of like the really off-road kind of stuff that all of us were kind of like, we like cars and we like driving them and stuff or modifying them. And he was, there, like I had a JK with 35s before anybody else and like all these things. So,
Did you know Mike put a JK on the moon first?
Oh, yeah. Yeah, for sure. With 15-inch wheels.
Well, yeah.
It's unheard of.
Yes, with 15 inches.
They don't fit if you ask the forums.
Yeah. So with that, I'd say take it away, Mike. Let's strap in because we're about to go for a ride.
No, it's two words. I like Jeeps, and thanks for having me. Who's next?
A lot of words.
No,
a lot of words.
So, yeah, we're gonna get started. I started camping with my family. I grew up in Alaska, and so basically we lived in Anchorage, and in Alaska, everything is about 10 years behind what's happening in the rest of the world. So when I was a kid, like parents still got super party wasted out camping, and the kids went and jumped quads into the river, and people were still smoking in bars after it was illegal everywhere else. And it was just a weird like backside of things. So I grew up in this community of like friends and family, and everybody on every weekend that we could would get together and we'd all go camping. And it was constant being in the woods, running around with your friends. We had BB guns and we put nails in the barrel so we could shoot more dangerous things than BBs. Like we just were feral children. But I remember that for like my whole life, how much I'd learned and how much I enjoyed being around people and spending time completely disconnected from everything else because you're camping. Like that, we're done. You don't have to do any of your other stuff. We're camping. And then when we get back to the city, we're back, and now we're back in life. But I got my first, we're going to go like Jesse. I'll follow kind of his lead here. I got my first car when I was 14. It was a 1979 Pontiac Firebird. It was a V6 car, and my dad told me that if I could get it running by the time I turned 16, that I could keep it. I bought it from like a guy off a trailer that drove it to like around the neighborhood or something. It was the weirdest thing, and I should never have bought it. Nobody should let a child buy your car. But I got it running, and I got it running about a week before my 16th birthday. And I ran into the house. I grabbed the phone. It was a cordless phone, but it was still a landline. And I held it up to the motor and I revved it. And I was like, Dad, listen, I got it running. And as my dad was on the phone with me, the motor popped. Just window in the block, oil everywhere, all over his driveway. And so my dad said, well, you got to sell that. So I sold that car and I saved up a bunch of money. And one day my dad called me and said, hey, get ready. I'm going to come home. I'm going to pick you up and we're going to go get this Bronco. There's a guy that had a 4-wheel drive 1986 Bronco, and it was on the side of the road with a for sale sign on it. It had no top. The drive shaft, the rear drive shaft had broken and fallen out of the truck. And he's like, $700 and it's yours. So I gave him $700, which I thought my dad had given me to buy the truck, but we had a joint checking account. And so it was my $700. I bought my own 16th birthday truck. For like a little while, I thought my dad bought me a truck. It was really neat. But my dad's like, all right, go lock the hubs. We're going to put it in 4-wheel drive and drive it home. And the guy on the side of the road was so mad because he never thought of that. He sold his Bronco because it was on the side of the road and he didn't want to pay to get it towed. And in reality, you could have just put it in 4-wheel drive and gone home. I had that growing up. And then from there, I went to Jeep Cherokee. And I kind of lived in that zone for a while. joined the Marine Corps, bought some nicer Jeeps because I could afford them when I had a steady paying job and someone who would house me and feed me. While I was in Afghanistan, I started emailing Sean because I had bought sight unseen from Florida a Mazda Miata with a turbo kit, and I wanted some wheels. And so I had bought like some fairly inexpensive but pretty lightweight. I did a bunch of research and found some decent wheels for a decent price, and I ordered them through Sean. And by the time the Miata got here, it was such a shit show of a Miata that, like, I was like, I'm putting nice wheels on this. This will be great. And ended up trading that for a Toyota. A second-gen Toyota pickup. It was like an 86. I don't know. Jesse, what's an 86 Toyota pickup?
4th gen Hilux.
Great. 4th gen.
Let's hold on. Let's stop for 1 second. That's not a Hilux.
Yeah.
In America, it is a Toyota pickup. That is what they're called. I'm sorry. You can call it whatever you want. I'm not going to rip you apart too bad.
It was the last generation before a Tacoma.
It's a Toyota pickup. And that is a second generation.
Yeah.
Okay, anyways,
So,
carry on.
I traded that for a Suzuki Samurai. And then I got it was not fun enough, and so I got back into Jeeps, and I've kind of been a Jeep guy ever since. I got this Wrangler here that I enjoy. I got a Cherokee back there. I used to camp out of Cherokees all the time until I got really mad at one and I kicked it and I broke my toe.
Mike, do you remember
with
when
these guys
else opened that hatch for you?
Yeah, climbed through the back and opened it because I was so mad I was going to go home. To be fair,
shout out to Dave.
That trip was overall stressful because my wife was very pregnant and about to pop. And so I was like, everything was falling apart. The air conditioning quit working. I know we've been talking about this, and that's very important. My wife was pregnant. She was like a couple weeks away from her due date. Yep. And my back hatch just wouldn't open. And I was kicking it, and I was mad. So somebody else opened it, and I stayed, and I finished the camp trip. But
great.
I really got into camping again with a group because this group of guys and their families were a lot like the group that I grew up with. There's a lot of just kids running around and having a good time and people hanging out by the fire and telling stories and good food and good people. It brought me back to that thing that I thought camping was, that I hadn't been able to have when I would go out camping by myself or go out camping with, a couple of family members or whatever. This group is to me what camping is. And so I really appreciated that. And now I have a full-size truck that has a camper on it, and I can almost go most of the places that we sometimes go together. But because of that, I'm going to take a 2-inch budget lifted Jeep Cherokee on 31-inch tires for Mcgrew Trail. So wish me luck there. That's going to be interesting.
Colin, is that trail gnarly enough that that's going to be a problem?
Funny story. Sort of like a guy that I know, and I don't think any of you have met him because he's a Land Rover guy, but his name's Rowan. He was recently at the shop because he brought in a radiator to test, and he was talking to Tyson about Mcgrew because Rowan has done the Mcgrew Trail. He's actually the guy with the Range Rover Classic in the video that I sent all of you guys. And Tyson made like the comment of, oh, well, yeah, that guy with the Cherokee that was like basically stock, it looked like he did just fine. And apparently Rowan gave Tyson quite the look and was like, no, he did not do fine. So as expected, it's I feel like the more stock, the more potential problem there is. But I have also gotten the understanding that a lot of the larger obstacles do have go-arounds. So
Well, we know Mike
I guess we'll
won't
see.
use go around because he's a real go-getter.
Right, yeah.
I would not
try.
expect Mike to do a go around.
I'm gonna try
Avoid
everything.
it at all costs.
I will also say that guy was in a stock XJ. I mean, there was no way he could get lower. He was on bald 30s. So I think Mike with 2 inches and 33s is going to do a little better. But
I got 31s.
31s. But the no lockers thing is going to kill you. Especially on the rocks.
No, it's a Dana 35 rear. I'm willing to weld that because by the time when this sells, I'm gonna 8.8 swap the rear of that and do a long arm kit. So it'll be ready for 33s or 35s depending on how much I want to cut the fenders. So I'm willing to explode Dana 35, no problem.
On the trailer. On the trailer. It's okay.
Yeah.
So I have to clarify something for our listener base. Mike is, you have to listen to Mike and understand that he will boldly proclaim the entire build process of this Cherokee. And it's, I don't know, 50-50 shot on whether it makes it to that or something entirely different, which could range from selling it all the way to leaf springs and 1-ton axles. Like there's every bit of possibility, but what Mike does really well is completely believes himself the entire time. He will start with, that's what I'm doing. That's the plan, and that is what's happening.
Absolutely.
Will you change that
And
plan?
I goddamn
No.
love that about you.
But you might not. I don't know. So I just want to make sure that everybody knows this so that, 5 podcasts from now when you say, yeah, remember that XJ I had? I have had 3 more since then, and this one I am keeping forever. That they don't get stuck.
I rarely claim to keep things forever anymore.
Not anymore.
Yeah.
That's a good
I rarely,
point.
yeah. Yeah, even this Wrangler, which I did not expect to sell now, I have been talking about selling for years now. I even tried when I had it not finished. And then I tried again.
Where it belonged to someone else in your family, a smaller, younger Michael. It's supposed to be his.
Oh, yeah.
Is he profiting off of this?
No. It's never going to be his. It was never going to be his. He gets Grandpa's yellow Jeep.
Let's see the record.
Yeah. Look for it. He claims it, but it does not belong to him. You think I'm going to give a 4-year-old an LS swap to TJ? No way. No way. He could barely handle a 4-liter. So this one's for sale because we got to buy that small person tonsil removal. His tonsils touch each other when he sleeps, and so we're going to do that. Thank you, insurance and healthcare system, for being so wonderful to us. So this is for sale. If anybody wants to look at a lifted TJ with an LS swap and some good axles, give me a shout on secretrsvp@gmail.com. I'll send you a full build list and a bunch of pictures. You're more than welcome. It's ready to go. Got about 3,000 miles on the swap. Runs great. Drives great.
If anybody asks, Mike did all the wiring himself. There was no help.
No, I bought a kit. I bought a kit, and then Sean helped me install it.
Sean did not do anything. Sean didn't touch it.
No, you should see this stuff. It's really good. It's a really super clean wiring.
Move on, and talk about something else.
I was going to digress. I was going to digress one little bit. I didn't get into why I started camp or my camping beginnings, because I got to tell the story. So my dad hiked from Mexico to Canada and has done the entire Pacific Crest Trail.
Cool.
So growing up, that was the level of camping we would do. So we would hike into our camp spots and then hike to other camp spots.
Oh, that sounds awful.
It's overlanding, but with your feet. It's called hiking. It's horrible.
Every time I've been
That sounds terrible.
snowshoeing, I always think this is like snow wheeling, but walking. That's just it.
Yes. So I had forgot Mike was telling his story about his childhood in camping and growing up camping. I was like, oh man, I kind of forgot to tell everybody that, like that's what camping was like growing up. And I joke when I say it was horrible. It was a lot of fun. I have a lot of memories about those style of camping and hanging out with my dad and mom. But I really like using petrol to get me to my campsite and using gratuitous amounts of skinny pedal.
I think it's the perfect balance between someone that wants to be in the outdoors and someone who wants to use a vehicle for something outrageous. We always joke in our household that it's car backpacking. Like, we use backpacking accessories because I like to keep it kind of light and kind of small as much as I can. And also we're in weird places and remote places, and so it's car backpacking. That's all it is. It's the exact same thing as backpacking, except for we're using a car. And sometimes we go to places that people in full-size trucks with four-wheel campers can go. And other times we're not. So,
I mean, your Trasharoo is basically a backpack, right?
I don't have one.
Yeah.
No car backpack for me.
It's a car backpack.
It's a car backpack. Or, it's something that somebody randomly texts you about while you're driving down the freeway because you have your truck for sale.
This is the hazard of having your phone number on your vehicle.
I've been waiting. So, backstory, just for listeners, I have my phone number on my truck with a for sale sign because everything's for sale. Except for my wife and my kid, everything's for sale. Funny thing is, I'm not on that list. But I have my number on my truck, and for the last 6 months, no one's ever called me. I've been flipped off for people thinking that I'm driving bad, but they don't have the nerve to call me. But some Subaru driver texts me today and says, hey, you left a bag on your truck. So I pull over and I get out of my truck.
I thought that there might be a bag.
I was like, oh, shoot, I left one of my tools on my truck. And I get out, and there's my Trasharoo on the back of my truck, and I'm like, son of a bitch. Somebody literally pulled the equivalent of, hey, your shoe's untied. Got you to look.
Oh,
it felt... I was mad at first, and I was like, motherfucker. But then I realized, I was like, you know what? You got me good. You got me good. Props for that.
That's a stroke of genius from that person.
But they only texted me because I have a sticker on my truck that says, your Subaru isn't cool.
Yeah, that's a good one. That's a good one. Holden loves his and gets many compliments and not so much compliments from it. In fact, I was sitting in the back of his car at Stanspor's Spring Meet in Seattle, and this kid in a brand new, the new body style WRX was parked right next to him, and he came up to me and he says, hey man, I like your sticker. And I said, okay, well, it's not my car, but I appreciate that you like it. And he's like, oh, it's funny. And I thought, you know what? Good on you, man. Good on you. Way to think of humor about it.
I'm proud of Holden in every single way.
We don't have to give him too much credit here. He's not going to listen.
No, he's going places. Not very fast because his car's too low, but he's going places.
Yeah, no kidding. Not very fast or not very far, but he's going.
But he looks good when he gets there.
Yeah. All right, I think that's a pretty good sum up of the old overlanding history for the two of you. Mike, I appreciate you saying something about everybody kind of giving you that old camp vibe, because I think that thought and what you liked about that is very much what we all like about it too. Which is obviously why we're friends and why we do this all the time and all those pieces of that. But it's a nice little warm your heart moment. Colin is a lot of times a little behind the scenes, and but also just so instrumental in like planning these things and making them more exciting and better and good. Whether he catches flack because we stay in the mud for 2 days or not, I know he enjoys it, and I know we all have a lot of fun blending our families and things together. And we're going to get more into that as we go along, because it fits really well with just going over every piece of this, every part of what we do as a group, and what we want to put out there as far as our content and our vibe and our thing, and I think that's fun. Colin and I will eventually get into that for ourselves as well. For anybody that's curious that we were just quiet that entire time, that's the plan. We're going to have a podcast pretty soon with a couple people that are the main start of what we did that really propelled us to what we're doing now. Not that that's anything special or different than what we do as a giant group, but there's like a few of us that just kind of started together, and that was fun. And so I think we're going to try to really deep dive that a little bit with 4 of us as opposed to just 2, which I think will be fun. We'll probably knock out like that silly, news portion of it when we do that. We're not going to really touch on that. We do have a tiny bit of time left. I don't want to like cut us super short, because I like that we have a certain length that we try to keep to. Mike just pointed his finger. Do you have anything you want to say, Mike? In fact, hold on before you talk.
Well, since you said, God damn it.
Nope. Before you say anything, what I was going to say is, what would you like to say?
Oh, great. So, speaking of knockout, the first real time that I got to hang out with Jesse, I punched him in the face. And so I wanted to quickly touch on my first real hangout with Jesse. I know we like you talked about when we met and when you met Jesse and all that other stuff. Jesse and I were barely friends in the Bend Up thing because he moved to Portland and I showed up, and it was just kind of like ships passing in the night. But one weekend, Luke took me over to a Timbers game and invited me over there, and Jesse let me stay the night at his house. And he was trying to quit smoking at the time, and I told him a story, or maybe he wasn't trying to quit smoking, but I thought he should. And so I told him a story about a guy that I helped quit smoking, and then I got, what are the odds, blackout drunk. And so we got to his house, and like Luke's hand was bleeding, and there was a bunch of broken beer bottles everywhere. Then Jesse lit a cigarette, and I punched him in the face.
You really painted a picture there.
Well, we didn't think that was going to be the case, but it turns out it was.
I don't think anybody ever
Jesse tells the story pretty good. But from there on out, we've been great friends. I invited the Mormon missionaries to his house. We've done all kinds of other circumstances. It's been a great time. He's probably my best 100-mile friend. If you lived any closer, you'd be probably my best. I say this all the time. You, me, and Steve would just like get a compound together if you guys lived any closer.
And watch anime.
Just constantly.
Man,
So, small correction to your story.
Mm-hmm.
So, I had already quit smoking cigarettes.
There you go.
So ever since I quit, actually 2 years after I quit smoking, I buy 1 pack of cigarettes a year, and I smoke 20 cigarettes over the entire course of 365 days. And you told me this story about your friend. You're like, oh, you should quit. And I'm like, no, I already quit, man. You're like, no, you didn't. I'm like, yes, I quit, Mike. Like, I don't really smoke anymore, but I smoke once every now and then because I can smoke 26 cigarettes over the course of 365 days. You're like, no, you need to quit. My friend, I used to punch him in the face every time I had a cigarette, and that's what I'm going to do to you. And I'm like, don't do that to me, Mike. I quit. I lit up a cigarette, and you clocked me, not in the face, but you cold clocked me from about 20 degrees this way in the side of the chin and took my head this way. I turned around, and I see this face. Just hit me, man. Just Mike, just one of the cutest faces you've ever seen in your entire life. Like, I went from angry to like, oh my God, that's adorable, so fast. I was like, God damn it, who's this asshole who hit me? And then I'm like, oh, that's one of my best friends now. I don't want to hit him. And he was not lying. He did. There were some Mormon missionaries walking by our house, my wife and I, my now wife's house. And he's like, oh, hey, brothers, how's it going? And he talks to him for a bit. And then Mike comes back. And I was like, what did you say to him? He's like, oh, they're going to come back and help you move. Like, what?
Oh, yeah, I forgot about this.
Yeah, I told them you were moving. They're going to come help you move. They'll be back next week. They're going to bring the other missionaries and they're going to come help you move. And I was like, fucking Christ, Mike. And ever since that moment, yes. Ever since that moment, we have been amazing friends. And I've appreciated your friendship as well.
I'll tell you, you can give missionaries quests. They'll take side quests. I had them help me sweep out the garage once. I had them take my trash out once. I invited them to help you move. It's like a video game. It's amazing.
Stop giving out your secrets on the internet, man. This is a podcast. Stop giving out your secrets.
Well, my email is secretrsvp@gmail.com. And if you want to email me about this bad boy being for sale, just let me know.